More on working conditions at Amazon. We're going to Britain right now to speak with journalist James Bloodworth, who spent a month working undercover as a picker in an Amazon order fulfillment center and found workers were urinating in bottles because they were discouraged from taking bathroom breaks. His new book is Hired: 6 Months Undercover in Low-Wage Britain. Welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us, James. Lay out what you found about Amazon. You've been tweeting nonstop about it hitting $1 trillion. Its CEO, its founding head, Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I've been tweeting about it and doing things like this in the media because it's really important, I think, to recognize what that huge wealth that Jeff Bezos and Amazon have accumulated, what that's built on. So before I went in 2016, I went into an Amazon warehouse here in Britain. And before that, I mean, I used Amazon myself. It was kind of a first place I'd go to buy books or DVDs, say. I didn't really know much about what goes on in the warehouses. I kind of, like other people, I mean, I wouldn't say I idolized Jeff Bezos, but he was someone in the culture who was, you had some respect for because he'd set up this organization that so many of us used. And while I went into the warehouse in 2016, I was really, really shocked by some of the things I saw there. I've worked in warehouses before this. It's not as if I was afraid of hard work or as if I'd never been in a kind of warehouse environment. But the atmosphere of the Amazon warehouse I worked in was what I imagine the atmosphere of a low security prison would feel like. So, and again, this isn't an exaggeration. So, for example, we had to be drug and alcohol tested before we started work, which I'd never had to have that done before. We had to pass in and out of giant airport-style security gates every time we even went to the toilet during the day. If you took a day off sick, you were given a disciplinary for that. And if you received 6 of these disciplinaries, you would effectively lose your job. And this was taking a day off sick, even if you had a letter from the doctor, even if you phoned in beforehand to say that you were going to be sick. So if you took 6 days off sick, you would effectively lose your job. And this was the biggest employer in this town. Other things, I mean, people were afraid. People were receiving disciplinaries for taking toilet breaks. The productivity targets were so high that workers were afraid to go to the bathroom. I mean, a survey came out of the Amazon warehouse I worked in recently, which found that 74% of workers there, order pickers, were afraid to use the bathrooms because of the productivity targets. And this
James,
culminated in
James
one
Bloodworth,
day I found a bottle of urine on the shelf.
James Bloodworth, on the productivity issue, the students in my class reported from their interviews that pickers were required to pick 300 items per hour from the various shelves in these huge warehouses. That comes to about 12, one item every 12 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it was astonishing. So, I mean, the first week I was working there, an Amazon supervisor came around to find me and told me that I was in the bottom 10% of productivity. And I'm someone who's relatively healthy. I run, I go to the gym. I'm still reasonably young. But someone like me was at the bottom of the productivity pecking order. So imagine what it's like if you're older, if you're overweight at all, if you have a disability. It was just impossible to keep up with the targets. And so what happened was people were running around this huge warehouse, which is dangerous for a start. And then you also received a disciplinary for running. So to hit your targets, if you didn't hit your targets, you'd receive a disciplinary. But to hit your targets, you had to break the rules by running around, for which you'd receive another disciplinary. So what happened was you have this huge turnover of staff. No one's hanging on to their jobs because people are just being fired for anything. And people are also leaving them.